We did it, Trojan family. Yep, we made it through the hardest part of the offseason. Just 47 days left. Oh, by the way, the Trojans class of 2026 is about to get a couple of bumps.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you. Thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network your first listen every day, whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you want to download this podcast, all platforms. This show is always free. This show always appreciates your support. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. It's true. In a month and a half, USC is going to kick off their season against Missouri State. Beat the Bears. There you go. So here's a question. Will USC's 2025, I don't know, will the 2025 roster start getting more preseason love? Or is it just the 2026 recruiting class that's going to get some more love? I'm here to tell you. You're going to see some star rating bumps, and it's going to happen today. At some point today, Monday, July the 14th, this episode of Locked On USC, there's going to be at least 3 Trojan commitments. And they're going to see their stocks rise, go through the roof, especially on one of them. I'm not going to say which 3 because I'm not going to drop the 3 names here before Rivals on 3 releases their update. Nevertheless, just know this. 2 things are going to come out of this thing, right? Positive and a negative. I think USC is going to strengthen their grip on the number 1 spot. They currently hold the number 1 recruiting class. It's going to get stronger. Now you have quantity, and the quantity's quality based on star rankings is going to improve. So it's going to strengthen that grip. And we're now halfway through July. And there is the other side of this thing, though. So yes, some Trojans are going to be getting bumped. It's only going to help the class overall, the overall ranking. But I think there's also going to be a bunch of ticked off fans around the country, as well as in Southern California. I'll let you guys kind of go, well, where are you going with that one, Mark? You'll understand when you see the new rankings come out. There could be, like I said, there could be more than 3 bumps. I know for sure of at least 3. I know the names. Scott Schrader, our friend of the show, recruiting guru over there at wersc.com, part of the On3 Rivals Network. He dropped a note at WeRSC over the weekend, and he specifically mentioned 3 guys. Not the names, just he said this. On Monday, USC will get a USC commit will get bumped to a 5-star. Another current 3-star will get bumped to a 4-star, and that person will actually become the 101st overall player in the nation. And then you'll have another 4-star that's going to creep into the top 300. He'll hit number 299. So 3 names getting some more love, and it's going to, obviously helps their NIL valuation. But in the bigger picture, it helps USC's number 1 recruiting class. Just adds more value there. So again, he didn't mention the 3 names. I'm not going to mention the 3 names either. So just stay tuned in. When you're done making this episode of Locked On USC your first listen today, don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, click that subscribe button, smash that thumbs up, click that bell notification so you don't miss any episodes. But when you're done making Locked On USC your first listen, get on over there to wersc.com. You can hit F5 button, hit it all day long. You'll find out who's getting what, right? I think one of them is going to surprise you, especially how high this one in particular is going to jump. It's kind of a crazy jump. Big time. I know when I heard the name and how many spots this player was moving up, I was like, whoa, it's a crazy jump in the rankings. But that's how these things work. You know, there's going to be a bunch of guys who need to be re-ranked. So if they don't make the cut in June, July during this evaluation period, don't forget, once they get their senior season started, there'll be another one. So this is the July bump, right? Everyone's done with spring camp as far as the schools are concerned. Most of the, developmental camps that the schools host, they're done. The 7-on-7 circuit's coming to it's kind of winding down because look, high schools are going to be starting their own fall camp here very shortly. High school football season starts in July. So everything's kind of winding down. They'll start playing their senior season, and then there'll be another evaluation period. So I think the next one happens September, October. It goes down this way. In the spring, you've got the April, May evaluation period after spring practices, camps, early visits. You get the services like On3, Rivals, 24/7, ESPN. They update their rankings. For example, Rivals, they updated their 2026 rankings in the spring on April 7th. 24/7 did theirs about a month later, May 14th. So that's how it works. And then, so we just now we're getting our June, July summer evaluations. Again, everything's coming off the camps I was just talking about that take place during the summer. And then in the fall, they'll do it again. It's September, October. Again, you got recruits that are taking visits. They're playing their games during the season. The scouts are kind of putting together more film, and they do another reevaluation. So there you go. That's how it works. You get one in the spring, you get one in the summer, and then you get another one in the fall after some games have been played. I know some of you like to live and die with the star rankings. You know how I feel about this whole thing? Not a big star rankings fan. I look at the programs that are recruiting you, how hard they want you, and that tells me how good of a player you are. If you've got schools like Alabama and USC and Ohio State coming after you and you're still a 3-star, who freaking cares, right? You get to choose between Alabama, USC, or Ohio State. You got something working for you. Don't worry about the star rankings. I get it though. There is some merit, to the higher ranked guys, how they end up being impact guys. Absolutely. But just remember, there's so much subjectivity. There's so much regional bias involved. If you are a similar player in the Southeast compared to a player on the West Coast, that player in the Southeast, for whatever reason, gets looked upon more fondly. Doesn't matter if you play in the Trinity League, in the toughest league in the country, forget California. For whatever reason, that's what I talk about when it comes to subjectivity, regional bias. It's just how the game is played. You just have to accept it. All right. So keep an eye out. USC's recruiting class, the #1 recruiting class in the country. It's getting bumped in a good way. And it's only going to strengthen their stranglehold on that #1 ranking that they've been holding pretty much since this class started. I know they dropped out of it for about a week or two, but they were just catching their breath. Strengthening that class, signing #1 players, whether it's Mark Bowman, Talanoa Ely, Elbert Hill. Who am I leaving off? Go look at it. It's a fantastic class, top to bottom. And it's only getting better now. All right. You know what else is going to get better in 2025? USC's linebacker room. I'll tell you why coming up next. And then I got my Monday's mailbag in the third segment. So you're going to want to stick around for all of this. But let's do this first. We've all been there. Yeah, it's a holiday. Well, it's the summer. You want to get one last, little party in, maybe go to a concert. You've been waiting in line forever to get those tickets. And something happens. I don't know what happened, but you lose your place in line. You don't get the ticket you want. You know what? live music, going to a concert, going to see any type of show should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster, makes it a lot easier, more than ever. Seriously, did you know that prices will actually drop as you get closer to the time of the show? It's true. It happens. Because of that, if you're a Game Time user, you can save up to 60% off with their killer last minute deals. You ever wonder what your view is going to look like if you buy that ticket at the last second? You show up, you don't have to worry about that. Because when you use Game Time, you get that panoramic seat view. There's no surprises. And with the Game Time guarantee, the price you see is the price you pay. There's no hidden fees. And if you do find a ticket in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying concerts and Showtime tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The Trojans defense last year in 2024 was good. In fact, if you want to compare it to the USC defense 2 years prior, USC's defense was great. And there was one aspect of the defense that was really, really good last year. Third down defense. One of the best in the country. In fact, in 2023, USC had the 106th best defense on third down. It jumped all the way to the 21st best defense nationally, second best in the Big Ten Conference. Talking about third down defense. That's how you know you have a good defense, because you're getting off the field. You're getting the ball back to your offense. Well, as good as USC's defense was in that particular area last year, there's still a lot of room for improvement, especially at the linebacker group, in that room. In 2023, USC generated 85 tackles for loss. Last year, that number dropped to 53. A lot of that production comes from the linebacker group. And last year just wasn't a very productive group, despite bringing in Easton Mascarenas-Arnold as a transfer from Oregon State, Mason Cobb back there, Eric Gentry. It just never materialized. I mean, they had their spots, don't get me wrong, but I think between injuries and it just never came together for whatever reason. This year, look, there's a lot more talent. You're going to be able to crank it out. I think the production is going to increase, especially if you can keep Eric Gentry on the field. Especially if Desmond Stevens takes that next step from his true freshman year into his sophomore campaign. And then you got guys like Jaden Walker and Anthony Beavers Jr. You brought in the transfer from Penn State, Tamir Robinson. You got some depth. You can absorb. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about how USC's defensive line is only going to need one half a play to show how dominant they can be. Well, that's because of the influx of talent. Guys returning for their second and third year, especially working in Danton Lynn's scheme for the second year in a row. Having guys like Coach Henney, Coach Nua in charge of that defensive line. But you've now brought in Rob Ryan to do the same thing with the linebackers. So I talked about how the defensive line, they're going to be able to show off how good they are. They're just going to need one half to get kind of ready. They'll do that against Missouri State. But what about the linebackers? How much time do they need to adjust to Rob Ryan? I don't think they're going to need that long. So like I said, I mentioned Eric Gentry. He's played with guys like Mason Cobb and last year with Easton Mascarenas-Arnold. I'm not sure whether it was the X's and O's or the Jimmys and Joes. We've talked about that before on the show. However, USC's linebacker production, it has to get better than what's been going on in the past. I think they will. So Gentry returns. Hopefully he stays healthy. Rob Ryan has already talked about how much he likes him. We've talked about this before. I forgot about this quote. He actually said that Eric Gentry right now, today, could cover, the tight end for the Raiders, Brock Bowers. It's true. I mean, that's how highly Rob Ryan thinks of Eric Gentry. During his opening presser, Rob Ryan is bound to rise as a major hit in LA. This is from who put this together? Oh, here we go. The Clutch Points, which is an online publication, right? They have a feature writer. His name is Lorenzo Reyna, and he highlighted the impact of Rob Ryan and how he could have an effect on USC's defense in 2025. Riley pulled off the bold move to grab veteran NFL assistant in January. Ryan then delivered a unique introduction during his opening day presser. Ryan is bound to rise as a major hit in LA, not just for the city media, but for Riley and the USC defense. The Trojans will rely on his wealth of knowledge plus fiery persona, and he's already impacting recruiting. Rob Ryan flexed, especially after he got Talanoa Ely to pick USC over UCLA. So he's already had an impact there. Excuse me. I've already told you how much, Coach Ryan loves Eric Gentry. And then, again, he thinks that he can cover Brock Bowers today. The best tight end in college football over the last couple of years, first-round draft pick of the the Las Vegas Raiders. And Rob Ryan's like, you know what? I got a guy who can cover him. So we'll see. They also said, though, that one of the things that Rob Ryan has to do with the linebacker group is make them tougher. He called them soft. Not Rob Ryan, the writer who wrote the story for Clutch Points. I disagree. USC was not soft last year. They were just undermanned, especially at that linebacker position. They weren't soft. They just didn't have enough guys to get it done. The guys they had typically were playing hurt or didn't play at all because they were hurt. So you got Eric Gentry, Desmond Stevens. Those are going to be the first 1-2 punch. I am going to go out on a limb. Those are your starting linebackers. We know that if USC is playing a run-heavy team, Anthony Lynn likes to, maybe implement a third linebacker. We'll see who that is, how they, adjust their scheme for that. Is that an Elijah Newby? Do you bring in one of the true linebackers? We'll see. Again, I love the depth of the group now. You've got Gentry and Stevens up front. If one of them needs to come up or you need to give both of them a breather, you bring in Jaden Walker, you bring in Anthony Beavers Jr., and I mentioned the transfer from Penn State, Timmy Robinson, is going to try and work himself into the rotation as well. As long as the defensive line does their job, all right, they create pressure, they start to collapse the line. Now you have that second level, the linebackers, who can start increasing their productivity. And hopefully that means more tackles per loss. That means more tackles closer to the line of scrimmage instead of 3 or 4 or 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage in positive territory. And here's something else I think why USC's linebacker group is going to look and perform better this coming season. It's because of not just the schedule. You're playing a bunch of teams that are, breaking in a new quarterback. This is a great opportunity for players who are going to be in the second season with Lynn's scheme to kind of make life miserable. Again, get into that backfield, create pressure, get some tackles for loss, sacks. And when the time is right, drop into coverage. So, yeah, I talked about it before. The defensive line, give them the first half to kind of just, feel good. That game against Missouri State, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be ugly. It shouldn't be close. And I'm hoping the linebackers are just causing havoc, making life miserable for the quarterback, for the running backs, just life in general. If they do that, USC's defense is going to be in a good place. Because if the defensive line is doing their job, the linebackers are doing their job, guess what? Now the secondary, specifically the cornerbacks, their life just got a lot easier. All right. So there you go. Linebackers. I'm going to give them a couple of games just to kind of figure it out. I get it. The competition isn't great. Not a big deal. But let's see I'm kind of interested to see how vanilla Coach Ryan and Coach Lynn keep it. Again, the schedule, Missouri State, Georgia Southern, on the road at Purdue. The competition isn't going to be great, which means USC's defense should be great, better. You got to be able to beat up on the teams you're supposed to. So now it's the linebackers. I anticipate the defensive line doing great. I want to see the linebackers get back to the standard where USC needs to be. All right, here we go. Last segment, we got the Monday Mailbag. This is where you, the audience, gets to be part of the show. So every Monday, I'm going to dip into my Monday Mailbag, get some questions from you guys, answer them, have some back and forth. And if you disagree with the answer, or if you want to raise another point, if you're watching on YouTube, hit me up in the comments section, or you can send me a question on my Instagram, Twitter. So I'm getting a lot of questions on Instagram, private messages, on Twitter, private messages. Don't forget, wherever you can find me. You want to send me a question on wearesc.com, be my guest. All right. As I said, I like to get the audience involved. So many good takes, lots of questions. First thing I want to do before I start answering a few of these questions, I want to give a special shout out. One of my everydayers. Okay. If I can count on Half Breed being the first person to tune into the show and give me the fight on. It's amazing, like clockwork. So do you, Half Breed. Fight on to you. Thank you for being a loyal everydayer. So this question comes from Shervin, Shervin, Shervin. And he sent me a message on Instagram. Listens every day. So thank you, Shervin. Says, hi, Mark. I'm curious what your take is if USC has a similar football season as last year. What will happen to our number one ranked class? I'm nervous. Thank you. I think one of the reasons why USC's recruiting strategy is working so well is because a lot of the guys, especially the top end guys, they're signing their NIL contracts. So I think one of the reasons why it's not going to fall apart or why you don't need to be so nervous, Shervin, they're under contract. And if guys want to get out of their commitment, they got to pay back something that they've already received. I mean, here's a perfect example. Kenai Pepe. If he was to, for some reason, say, I don't want to be part of USC's class anymore, he's got to take back that Escalade that he just bought his mom for her birthday. And yes, Shervin, it is possible that other schools would be willing to pay the buyout. Sure, absolutely. Whatever, that fine print is. But remember, any deal, they all have to pass the NCAA clearinghouse. So it's going to look a little peculiar if if a recruit decides to dump USC this late in the game, go somewhere else. Typically, they're going somewhere else for more money. You got to prove that it's worth it. You got to prove that fair market value. With that said, if USC goes 7-6 again, yes, I would imagine there will be some of the recruits that decide to pull the ripcord, so to speak, bail out. I just don't think it's going to happen. Not to the extent that you're worrying about it. Last week, I got a question from Ernesto Galvan regarding Thanos, Jakeem Stewart. Says, Mark, not hearing much about Thanos. How's he coming along? He will need to be a key contributor this year. Look, I know, man. I get it. Trust me. Not a whole lot of chatter from the player-run practices right now. However, from the limited feedback that I've seen and heard, Jakeem Stewart, he's going to be part of the rotation. Right? That's all you have to be concerned about on July 14th. Jakeem Stewart is going to play this year. He's going to play a lot. I think I brought it up on a recent episode of Locked on USC with who and basically against who USC has returning, their schedule. Just let Jakeem play one game at a time. Kind of get the feel of the college game. I just want to remind everyone, no need to put extra undue pressure on this young man. He reclassified. He's not supposed to be part of this class, and he's only played 12 games in high school. So yeah, let's not just throw him to the wolves. Let's give him a chance to kind of sniff around, see what it's all about. But those first few games that USC plays, I think he's going to give us a chance to see what all the hype is about. Why not only USC but every program in the country wanted it. Here's something from Gary OX06X. Excuse me, Gary06X. Mark, maybe we're getting so much disrespect. Mark, because we're getting so much disrespect, don't you think that will motivate our players to prove them wrong on the field? So Gary's referring to all the preseason publications, poll rankings, preseason All-American teams, all-conference teams, like Jacoby Lane being on the 4th team wide receiver in the Big Ten. Yeah, that caught everybody by surprise. So to answer Gary, I would say I would hope so. I would hope they would use that as bulletin board material. I know that when I was playing any type of competitive sports, whether it was kickball in elementary school, little league, little league baseball, high school sports, or whatever, I wanted to win and I wanted to beat the other guy no matter what. So yes, the guys who pay attention, it's gonna be a little bit of motivation for them. When I was playing sports, even when I was coaching high school basketball, I remember making up some smack talk just to get my team motivated. When I was a coach, I said, hey guys, before we go out there, I was walking by the other team as they were getting warmed up. I heard so-and-so say this. So-and-so never said that. But I knew which buttons to push for certain players. So yeah. Gary also sent me this comment. This is just more of a comment. Hey, Mark, my and perhaps your favorite number in sports is number 32. Sandy Koufax wore number 32 for the Dodgers. Magic Johnson, the man, Irvin, wore number 32 for the Lakers. You have Marcus Allen, USC. Well, here's one more for you. You didn't give me this name, and I get it. He didn't wear number 32, but he did wear number 24, and he did wear number 8. And when you add those two numbers together, you get 32. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, my all-time favorite Laker. Well, second all-time favorite. Number 42, James Worthy. Got to go there. Sorry. But I'll tell you what, if those are the first two guys on my Laker team, it's going to be a good Laker team. So thank you, Gary. Appreciate your comments, and thanks for the show. Really did like it. This one's from James Dixon, 1960. A little long. Let me get through this here. For those people who bashed Riley and want him gone, let's see which path you would like to follow. First, stay with Riley and continue the momentum he has with recruiting, coaching, and continuity, or start all over and fire Riley and lose the majority of the 2026 recruiting class and have the media badmouth the university 24/7. Who could USC get as to be head coach that is a better game day coach and has the recruiting chops? Do you remember the past coach searches? I'm going to stop there because there's a lot of run-on sentence and I want to make sense of this. This is what I'll say. Yes, we want to continue with Coach Riley. Not because I don't want to deal with the 24/7 bad mouthing. I can deal with that. Keep this in mind. USC has never been known as a program that hires coaches and has been, done great with it. A lot of times it's just a matter of luck. John McKay, he was an assistant coach at Oregon, came down in the late 50s, took over at USC. Pete Carroll, okay, he was not USC's first choice, second, or third choice. He was probably like fourth choice, and he had to ask for the job. Is there somebody else better out there that can do a job better than Lincoln Riley? I don't know. You hear rumors and whispers that Nick Saban wants to come out of retirement. He had an opportunity to have a job at one time. Didn't think it was worth it. What I will disagree with, because James went on to say, that we should give Riley a few more years. All I will say is this. There was a time before NIL and before the transfer portal, programs gave their new head coach that they would sign 3 years, 4 years. Turn it around, or else you're on the hot seat. I get what you're saying, James, but saying it's okay just to keep Riley because you're concerned about the 2026 recruiting class and hearing all the negative talk. Guess what? If USC goes 7-6 again, you're going to hear that talk, and it's going to be deserved. So I think you kind of have to look at both sides of the situation. Do you want to lose Coach Riley? No. Everyone is rooting for Coach Riley to do well, including me. I like the guy a lot. But after year 4, with all the advantages, and I get what he stepped into, we've seen other programs turn it around. We shouldn't be giving Coach Riley any extra latitude because you're afraid of what if. Life is what if. All right, then lastly, this one comes from, I had to throw this in there. This show has daily trolls who watch this show religiously. So thank you. Appreciate your viewership. But sometimes you guys say some of the dumbest stuff. This one comes from Craig Caramelli. I think I said it. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Seems like everyone forgot about USC cheating 15 years ago. Can you forgive us? It is old news, but not new for USC. They have been disciplined many times for paying players and recruiting violations. Craig is commenting on last week's Big Ten squad show, where one of the panelists said that the NCAA has never followed through with their rules and laws and holding teams accountable. If you're a USC fan, you're just saying, hold my beer because you're full of doo-doo. So as far as Craig is concerned, this is the common narrative from non-USC fans. First of all, USC did not pay anybody. Familiarize yourself with the situation. Okay? USC did not pay one dime to Reggie Bush or his parents. Secondly, you're a dummy. I'm sure you're a nice guy in real life, Craig, but on this subject, you are an imbecile. So if you want to chime in with your troll, that's fine. But you're going to get some feedback. And sometimes it's not the feedback you want to hear. Maybe it is. Maybe you were mining. Maybe you were trolling for this type of feedback. All right. That's it for this episode of Locked on USC. I'll be back again with another one tomorrow. We'll talk about the new rankings. We love talking recruiting here. And anything else that comes down the pipe regarding USC. So until the next episode, everyone, you know what to do.